Hola, soy Berenice Hernán. Esto es Península 360. Esta es una serie de entrevistas a los candidatos y las candidatas al Consejo de la ciudad de Redwood City. Las entrevistas constan de 9 preguntas, las mismas para todos los aspirantes, los cuales tendrán 1 minuto para contestar. My first question for you is, why do you want to be on City Council? ¿Por qué quieres ser concejal?
Okay, so I'm running for city council because I grew up in a small duplex, in a small rented duplex, and so I had to share a room with my dad. Consequently, politics, I had to watch political segments, and so that's where the interest in politics was first instilled. And this year I was kind of at a crossroads. Last year I played professional basketball in El Salvador, and when I came back from El Salvador, I was kind of like at a crossroads where I was like, okay, so what am I going to do next? Am I going to go play basketball again, or what am I going to do more for like my career reflection? And it's always been a dream of mine to in politics. So just reflecting on it, I felt like the time is now. And I think that's true. I think now more than ever, people are like receptive to a younger candidate. People want younger, some people, not everybody, want a younger candidate that's like fresh, especially, and can offer some new ideas. And I think now more than ever, we do need a candidate with the social consciousness required to respond to the novel and nuanced needs of a rapidly changing world. A candidate who is able and eager to listen to the diverse, multi-generational range of voices that make up our community, and a candidate without ties or that's also fresh. And so my campaign is entirely grassroots and it's entirely self-funded. I filed a Form 470, so I can't receive campaign contributions. I can't spend more than $2,000 on my campaign, and all that money has to be of my own money. So I think it reflects the integrity of my intentions going into council. I'm not going to be biased by any contributions or anything like that. I'm going to work for what's best for the community.
Esta es la primera vez que vamos a tener una elección distrital. ¿Nos puedes decir cuál es la diferencia?
So this is my first election. I'm 26, so this is my first experience to a campaign. I think that, if I were to imagine, the district is a little more personal. And for me personally, as a 26-year-old candidate that is coming into this fresh and new, it kind of works for me. It also works against me. It works for me in that I can actually talk to most of the people in this, not most of the people, but a larger fraction of the people within this district, within the voter pool. And it also works against me because, well, actually, it does work for me. It works against me just because of COVID. I can't actually go door to door and talk to people. And I think because I'm younger, some people have like uncertainty towards me. They might, have preconceived notions that I'm irresponsible, for example. But once I meet people, then I have more of a connection to them. Then they see that they can trust me. And so that's what works into my advantage, is that because it's a district election and because my campaign doesn't have a lot of monetary freedom anyways, most of my campaign is actually going out and walking around and meeting people on the street that happen to live here. And so...
¿Cuáles crees que son los principales problemas que enfrenta la comunidad latina en tu distrito?
Education, racial justice. Let's see. I think housing's a big one. I think that I've rented in Redwood City my whole life. This backyard looks really big and nice, but if you saw the front of the house, you'd be like, that doesn't belong there. My house definitely stands out amongst the community. Growing up in like a small rented duplex, the block that I lived on was very different back then. I lived in the Palm Park neighborhood of Redwood City, which is on Lark Avenue. And, it was a very diverse neighborhood. and different people, which is fine. But unfortunately, the Latino community has been a community, especially that has been kind of has been the most vulnerable to the gentrification that has gone in the city. So there's ways that in which I want to address housing to make the rent more affordable. Anyways, I think for the Latino community, a big concern is housing. I think that they have been, some of the most vulnerable to the gentrification that has gone on. On council, I can help make housing more affordable for Latinos and for everybody else, for that matter. And ways in which I strive to do that is by limiting office space development, prevent increasing the demand to move here, convert vacant office space into housing. There will likely be a lot of vacant office space in the future. That's going to be really opportunistic to convert that into housing in a very cost-effective manner to allow for a lower or a reduced rent rate. And it's also more environmentally sustainable, and also yields less congestion, which a lot of people from Redwood City have been telling me they're kind of sick of all the congestion. So that's a way to provide for more housing without actually making the city more congested. And then also, this is a little bit more difficult, I'll admit, but working with developers amenable to building non-luxury units. If you look at all the units that have been developed within the last 8 years, they're all high-end, more or less. They're all high-end. They're all marketed for a wealthier market. They all have granite countertops and pools and all these costly price markups. So I'd be willing to seek out developers willing to minimize those costly amenities to help decrease construction costs to allow for a reduced rent rate.
¿Cómo te le vas a acercar a la comunidad latina?
I play professional basketball in El Salvador, so yo puedo hablar español más o menos, no todos, pero mi español está bien. So like I as I come across, I do have that Spanish back. So just walking on the street, I've had to, as I've been campaigning, I've had to use my Spanish, and I'm continuing to practice it. I'm working with one of my friends from El Salvador. He's teaching me Monday through Friday. So talking to them. I also work at the RWC Center, which is a nonprofit in Menlo Park near the North Fair Oaks neighborhood. So a lot of my friends are Latinos, and the family, their families that I'm also friends with, they've been telling me about their concerns, and a lot of those concerns are concerns that I've had to face personally in my life. Being a renter and not having the most socioeconomic means. There's other needs that are specific to them that I not faced. When it comes to justice or immigration protection aspects, and I'm just really want to help serve the community and help equity and integrity inform my policy first and foremost, not maximizing financial gain. And I look forward to when I actually get to be on the council, assuming that I win, which is not necessarily which is going to be a difficult road ahead for sure. But I look forward to being able to serve the city at large, especially the Latino community. Right now I'm in District 7, which doesn't have a high demographic of Latinos. And so I've been campaigning a lot. And although I have, come across, Latinos, I'm sure once I get into council, I'll be able to, communicate more with Latinos and be able to work for their needs, such as housing, such as education, and making education more equitable. I mean, there's big discrepancies between White Cloud and other schools, and North Star and other schools, and that is socioeconomic and ethnic, socioeconomic and ethnic background biases that are involved in that. And so I really look forward to helping serve those needs.
¿Qué has hecho antes con la comunidad latina y otras comunidades de color?
I have a lot of Latino friends growing up, near Red Morton. a lot of the friends that I grew up with, like on my block, were Latino, and visited Mexico City and stayed with my friend that's Mexican and stayed in the barrio there. Went to like Tepito and like not the touristy spots, and it was a good experience. But as far as working, at the Rikers Center, you work with everybody, so it's all like everybody of all socioeconomic and ethnic backgrounds, all ages, all physical, mental capabilities, all interests, etc. And so I've worked with a lot of Latino and a lot of Black people there, and a lot of their concerns are concerns that I want to hear. They always talk about gentrification of being relocated due to the fact that a lot of these cities are single-handedly serving corporation. And although I do think you should support corporation to some extent, I don't think it should be to the extent that it currently is at. I think we should do it in more moderation and still address the needs of the people, especially the people that are most vulnerable and the people that, historically, when I was growing up, made up so large.
¿Qué opinas de la justicia social en Redwood City?
So for social justice, I think that first of all we need to set policy that is ethical and equitable, and not necessarily only what is financially optimal. I think that we need to have communication platforms, not just for a certain period of time, but official communication platforms that are ongoing, maybe once a month or bi-monthly, with government agencies, including the police, that will allow people to voice their concerns in a way where they're not, they're protected, and it can offer for more transparency, because what you see is, or what the government presents themselves, or agencies present themselves, as just like the good stuff, but you don't always get to hear the not so good stuff. And so I think there has to be communication platforms that are ongoing and not just for a specific period of time. So Redwood City just finished their police talks, but I don't think that that's sufficient, especially with some of the specificities in the process that they went about it. I think that should be a monthly thing or something along those lines. And I would actually like to refine the process in which you conduct those talks. But that way, there is an official communication platform going on. And I do think we need the whole, it's not just about making sure city staff, I do want to make sure that, city departments and agencies are diversely staffed, but they should also be, held accountable and make sure that they're maintaining a culture of inclusivity and maturity.
¿Cuáles son los obstáculos del compromiso social en Redwood City y cuáles son tus estrategias para afrontarlos?
I think there are barriers to civic engagement. I think some of those barriers are economic based and cross-sectional between cultural and economic based. So a lot of the sway and power comes around the money, and a lot of the money comes around, unfortunately, white people. And so a lot of those Latinos and their voice is kind of muddled, partly because of that. And I think, on the council, I really want to be able to be a voice of reason and logic that works for the community as a whole. And so there is certain things that I support. I support making substantiated findings of the police made public. Obviously, it's a state bill, so it doesn't really necessarily correlate to the city level, but I would be endorsers of that publicly. as long as, you know, the findings were made public after the onset of the adoption of the policy, when that was, you know, the expectation. So I'm open to that. For example, I'm open to other police, you know, changing some different ways in which we conduct policing. For example, you know, yearly fitness tests. I think you can offer that as a financial incentive. And I think that will help, you know, limit officer vulnerability and dependence on weapons, which could prevent escalating situations unnecessarily. And, you know, even from a financial standpoint, it could be offsetting the costs, because you might have decreases in officer disability claims, which is a huge economic burden right now. You know, the majority of people that are retiring as police officers right now in Redwood City are claiming disability retirement, and so it's a huge like fiscal burden. So it could be offset too, from a fiscal standpoint. And there's other like police reforms that I think would be better in providing, you know, a more transparent service, including maybe a citizens oversight committee, or some sort of third party agency that, you know, helps to oversee the police. So it's not just the police policing themselves, or the district attorney, who normally has a conducive relationship with the police and has rapport with the police department. So there's just less biasy. But I will say, and I want to make this clear, that I'm not someone that thinks we should completely defund the police, and that I do think the police is a necessary entity and should be supported. But I do think there are ways that we can improve the service to be more equitable and transparent.
¿Cómo harás para que las políticas en Redwood City sean más abiertas a la inclusión y la diversidad?
Housing is a big thing. I mean, in order to be here, you have to have a house here, unless, you know, necessarily there are homeless people here, have homeless family members. They don't live here, but they do live in the Bay Area. But, you know, to get people here, they have to, you know, usually they have to have a house here or apartment here, some sort of unit to live in here. So housing and making that more affordable, so that different socioeconomic backgrounds, you know, there's less barriers for them to come here. Let's see. I think just making like some of those changes in the police that I mentioned will, you know, that's policy showing that you actually care about the people. I think sometimes there's been a lot of performative. You know, Redwood City's thinking about building a BLM mural, which I think is fine. I think it's good. But none of the city council policies that they've enacted reflect the values of the BLM movement. So I think it's kind of performative, as opposed to actually like affecting change. And so for me, I'd rather see them, and like as a council member, I'd rather see change be affected that makes people of color feel more welcome and accepted and protected, than to see kind of this disingenuous, maybe image conscious act of like public display.
De ser elegido, ¿qué harás para la comunidad latina en los próximos 4 años?
Let's see. I mean, I definitely want to do more like grassroots research. So like, you know, talking to people that I know, but not even people that I don't know, meeting people. And so like, even like walking on the street, I would definitely be more than willing to talk to people, especially in like different, more Latino concentrated parts of Redwood City, and seeing what their needs are. So that's the first thing. The first thing for me is grassroots, is engaging with the actual community members on a personal level, not through some like a official platform or something. Really getting to hear their unbiased, less filtered opinions about the city, their raw opinions. On top of that, I do want to continue with official, dialogue platforms so that people of the Latino community can give their input and have their voice be heard about like the government, how it's ran, the city, different city departments, different city agencies, etc. And so that's the more official level.
No se vayan a perder la próxima entrevista con otro candidato para el Consejo de la Ciudad de Redwood City.